Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with REMAX, the Golfi team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show with host Aiko Iwashita. Did I say that right, Aiko?
You know what? You're pretty close there, Rob Golfi. You are. It's Aiko Iwashita. And you know, Rob, you and I go back so far. So I'm happy to be here filling in for Steph Vivier this morning on the Golfi Real Estate Show.
That's awesome. You know what? I remember listening to you when you first started. You've got a great voice, and I could see why. And also, you're a great a journalist, and you're awesome. I'm so glad that you're here today. I was excited to know that you were filling in for Stephanie today. So I'm really happy about that. It's
always my pleasure.
Yeah. But I really want to talk about is inventory. The market. I mean, everybody always talks about the market, but realtors, they're a little bit nervous about this market. And people are sitting back waiting, and we don't know what's happening. Interest rates have fallen, but nobody's really jumping in. I think the only people that are buying houses right now, the ones that, they know they got a stable job. They know that they've saved up their money. It's their time to start looking. And those buyers right now, they're in a good situation and they can negotiate a really decent deal. It depends on the seller if they're really motivated. And if they're motivated, they're gonna give up a little more on the negotiations to get that to sell their house. Just because there's so much it's so competitive out there to sell a house. Mm-hmm. Like if you got a 2-story, 3 or 4 bedroom house in a neighborhood, there's probably another 10 like that. So you bet yours. How does yours stand out? Well, you better make sure it's painted, cleaned, and everything else, and it looks sparkling clean when people are going through. So you'll get an offer that way. But the market, there is a lot of funny things going on in this market right now, and it's hard to gauge what things are going to happen. But I got a bit of an idea. Like inventory levels are its highest level ever, and it's since the 90s. Now I was a young guy in the 90s, and I wasn't in real estate. I wasn't a realtor, but I did buy real estate, and I was also in business. And the 90s was a heavy recession. So that kicked in Q2. The second quarter and third quarter, 1990, that's when the recession just, boom, kicked in. And then technically it ended, it took 2 years. Now, recessions are usually 7 months to 10 months. That's what usually recessions are. The one in the 90s lasted 2 years, but it was actually longer than that. And that's when Eaton's had problems. Now, the banks were lending money to Eaton's back then in the early 90s to stay afloat. So they kept giving them money because they're a big name. They're a big, store, and they were across Canada. And so by the mid to the end 90s, they actually filed bankruptcy because the bank said, we can't keep giving you money. We gave you guys a chance. And that's how the Eaton's department store ended, but they really ended in the early 90s. But they were being floated by the banks later on, and a lot of people were in that situation. So people were hanging on. I remember I was in business in the early 90s. It was a tough time.
We're seeing that now with the Bay then too. So it's a bit of a deja vu situation.
It is for sure. And the banks were probably supporting them for a long time, and they said we can't do it anymore. And the Bay's such a great store. I you know what I mean? Like I don't know what happened there. Like I don't know management wise, but like they've got great stuff in that store, and it's too bad to see that go. Like where do you go get? That was kind of like your mediocre and upper end stuff. You know what I mean? Like medium to upper end, and now. Where do you get, like, if you want towels, you want nice dishes, or you want, I don't know. I don't know where to go.
And I think they really kind of missed the market with their customers with online.
Oh, they did, no doubt. So what happened? So now what's happening now is that it took the real estate market in the 90s when it did crash, just like it did in 2022, okay? When it crashed, for it started climbing again in the late 90s. It was almost like a 9-year, it flatlined. It just like nothing, like houses were selling, but houses weren't going up in price. One month it was up 2-3%, next month it was down 2-3%. So that happened in the 90s, and that took about 8-9 years. Now, that is not going to happen now. That will not happen. Right now, it'll be shorter because there's different times. So now our interest rates are down, right? They're coming down. Back then in the 90s, they brought up interest rates just because they were trying to slow down inflation. And the same thing happened. In 1989, we were hitting the peak of the market, and then in 1990, the January, February, March, that's when it was like a repeat of 2022. If you bought in the first quarter of 2022, you probably overpaid by 10-15% for the house. And the same thing happened back then. Now, we've been flatlining for probably over a year now, and probably a couple years. So, but we will recover faster than we did in the 90s, just because of the fact that we have high immigration. We got a lot of people without homes out there, and we got people sitting waiting to buy, but they're not sure when to buy. So they're sitting and waiting. They're either living with their parents still, or they're living with their family, or they're renting. They are sitting and waiting to make sure the market is good. So my theory is I think things are going to change next year to start climbing again a little better. People are going to start feeling confidence in the market. And then in 2027, I think that's when you're going to start seeing multiple offers again happening in real estate. Like we just have a fast market, and housing is expensive. So if you're a buyer right now, you've got time to buy, and you got time, and you can negotiate a really good deal. So don't hesitate to buy. It may like, say if you buy a house for let's say $650,000 today, it may be worth only $650,000 in 4 months or 6 months or a year from now. But we don't know when the rise is going to happen. We don't know when the market's going to pick up. So this is your window to get into the market and buy a house without being in competition. Get a inspection done, get pre-approved. You got good interest rates that are happening right now. It's decent. It's affordable. And even if, you know what, I'll tell you, even if you can't afford it on your own, maybe find a friend or a cousin or family relative to buy a house together, build the equity, stay there for 5 years, sell it. Now you each may have enough equity to buy a house on your own. And
yeah, you are seeing a lot more of that.
Oh yeah, even retiree ladies are doing that. They're widows and their husbands passed and they're living by themselves and they still want to live in a house. But
It's
also
like the Golden Girls sitcom.
It is Golden Girls. Can you imagine elderly ladies living together? Now they don't hold back. They're not going to hold back. If they don't like something you're doing, they're going to say it. The younger you are, you're kind of a little bit more patient. The older you are, you're not going to be patient. If you don't like to, if they snore, if one snores and the other one doesn't, if one doesn't clean the kitchen, the other, I guarantee it'd be like Golden Girls for sure. And if the young people that are listening, Golden Girls was that was in the 80s or the 80s or 90s?
It was 80s for sure.
80s
it may have went into the 90s, but definitely 80s.
Yeah, that was a funny. I always look at. There's always little comical little clips of the Golden Girls online.
Yeah,
so it's always nice. Yeah. Nice to see it. But yeah, like it's and months of inventory. So because the Niagara board switched companies, it's hard to gauge what months of inventory are. But the one thing I do know, in the month of May, it's an all-time high. And it happened in May of also in 2024, almost 1,800 new listings in Niagara. And that happened in May of last year, and it was almost 2,000 new listings. So that's quite a bit. Like it is a lot. And so in Hamilton, now the stats are still good. So it shows here in Hamilton, the months of inventory, we got 5 months of inventory. So that means if we stopped putting new houses up on the market right now, any new listings on the market, we have enough based on sales. We have enough inventory to last 5 months out there, which is high. It's the highest ever, the highest ever. And same thing in Burlington, 4 months of inventory, and it's of listings. So even our own inventory of listings that we have with the Golfi team is at an all-time high. I've never held this many listings ever in the 25 years that I've been in this business.
Wow.
I've had this many inventory, and it's hard to tell. And agents all over the place, not only on my team, but agents that are independent on their own and other teams, and they're saying, Rob, what's going on? And I go, listen, we just got to live through it. Hey, like you just can't expect to have glory days every year. This is where, you know, if you saved your money prior, you just got to cut back on your lifestyle and, you know, not spend as much. But it is a different times right now.
So it's not a question of inventory, it's a buyer's market. Are there specific types of properties that are selling more so over than others?
Yes, and let's say in the Niagara region, anything under 700 is moving fairly pretty good, and also properties that are completely pristine. So if your house is beautifully, it's clean, painted, you know, flower beds are all trimmed, grass is nicely cut, and you got a lot of updates in your house, they seem to sell first and fast. And then the other ones, slowly, they just, you know, like they'll take 30, 60, 90 days to sell. But but houses are still selling. People are still buying. People need a house over their head. It's something that we all need. And, but if you have something beautifully taken care of, you will probably be the first one to sell before your neighbors will.
And a few years ago, when we were all about like negotiating and offers and multiple offers, what does it look like in the buyer's market?
Yeah, you can negotiate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of feel for it. Depends how long it's been on the market. But you can actually get an idea of how motivated the seller is. And if you go in with an offer, sometimes they get upset and they don't want to deal with it. So, okay, they're not a motivated seller. But the ones they want to work with that deal. They will work with it to a certain degree. And there's some good deals to be get out there. There's, you know, you can negotiate a pretty decent deal. If you got a good negotiator working on your behalf, you can get some good deals. Like we've always, like, I get involved with a lot of people on my team when they're in negotiations and trying to get an accepted offer. We explain it to the other agent, especially the agent that has the listing. We kind of give them the stats and some of the other listings that sold, and they'll kind of convince their clients, say, listen, you know, Golfi's, this is what he's shown us, and he's kind of right on this. I think if we don't put a deal with him now, we may end up getting less down the road. And it does happen. Your first offer is always your best offer, whether it comes in the first week or it comes in 30 days from your list. That offer, you try to work with that offer as much as you can, because as 60 days go by, you'll look at that offer and say, we should have taken that first offer.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, when they talk about real estate market, you always think about the spring market being a hot market. It's been what kind of a market so far this spring for you, and changing into summer? Is this going to change the market dynamics, do you think?
Absolutely. I think our spring market's going to be this summer. And it's hard to gauge. I was just talking to one of my clients, and they live in the Calogero Estates in Niagara Falls. And I said to them, look, there's only 2 houses in the last bit that sold over 1.5 million. So a lot of houses aren't like the higher end houses in Niagara are not moving as fast, like between 1.5 to 2 million. You know what I mean? They're not moving as fast. But higher end houses on top of that, you do get the odd one that, you know, the rich, I mean, when markets are like this, it doesn't affect them. They have the money and they'll buy if they see something right for them.
Especially in the buyer's market. I know that the condo market could also be good for the buyer's market, correct?
Absolutely. The condo market took a real bath in the last 18 months. So if you're looking for something in the condo segment, you'll pick up some really good deals there.
Well, when we're talking about deals, when we're talking about all of the, the right places to go, the right people to talk to. I mean, really, it's the Golfi team. You're a one-stop shop when it comes to real estate. You guys have been in the market forever, and I know people need to know this information, which is why they're tuning in to the Golfi Show. So we'll be right back. You're listening to the Golfi Real Estate Show right here on News Talk 610 CKTB. Rob Golfi joins us, and he will be right back with us on the Golfi Show.
Are you worried about selling your home on time and for the most money? Hi, I'm Rob Golfi. Every year we invest millions of dollars in our advanced marketing system, ensuring your home is seen by tens of thousands of potential buyers. We don't just hope it sells, we make it sell.
And welcome back to the Golfi Real Estate Show. I'm Aiko Iwashita. I'm filling in for Steph Vivier, and I am super excited to be here because I do love the topic of real estate. Real estate is never the same each and every year, but you know who you can count on each and every year? It's Rob Golfi and the Golfi team. Rob is the expert, and he's been telling us what's been happening in the market. It's a buyer's market out there. If you are willing to, get in there, whether you are a first-time buyer or you are, in this for the last 5, 10, 15 plus years, there are lots of homes to buy. Golfi, you know exactly what's happening in this market. So let us know locally what's happening in the real estate market.
So we have this homeowner in Hamilton and on Kingsway, actually it's in Stony Creek. He spent over $400,000 building a driveway and poolside oasis during the pandemic. Now, the project was unknowingly built on a city-owned parkland, oh boy, near the Red Hill Valley. Now, the owner claimed he believed that the land was his and faced difficulty assessing permit and boundaries info due to 2020 pandemic restrictions. Now, he offered to buy the land for $150,000, but City Council rejected the proposal. Now, Councillor Brad Clark, who initially opened the alternatives, reversed his stance after confirming the build violated zoning rules and official plan. No councillor supported a motion to sell or negotiate. The owner didn't attend the meeting. The city expects the structures to be demolished and the land restored, costs to be charged back if the city does the work. Wow. A lot of this happens. So with this guy, he's going to have to tear it down. And he spent $400,000. He thought he can get away with it because nobody was, nobody ever looked at it. Nobody ever bothered him about it. It was parklands. It was just sitting there forever and nobody was touching it. He thought, okay, I can expand this. And if he got away with it, it would end up staying there forever after that. But maybe somebody complained. I don't know. But this happens a lot. Just to give you an idea, and if he did get away with it, the next homeowner, like if he sold a property, let's say 10 years down the road, the next homeowner had a problem, they would have titles insurance to protect them because of things like this. And there is a lot of properties out there that people buy that have encroachments on city land. And that's why years ago, you had to get a survey. And if people remember, 20, 30 years ago, even more, in the 80s and 90s, you had to get a survey to close a deal. And
yes.
So the banks, because they wanted a survey, they want to make sure that the house that you're buying is within the boundaries of the law. And that was getting expensive. So they came up. So a company in Hamilton, actually, a law firm, came up with titles insurance, and so they came up with that. Say, hey, listen, we'll insure it if there's any problems. We'll take care of it. And so now every house and every lawyer makes sure that the homeowner has titles insurance. Now, if you bought your house before, I think in the mid 90s. You should get titles insurance if your house is paid for or whatever, because in case there's defraud on your house, somebody puts a mortgage on it, you don't know about it, you will be covered. So if you don't know about titles insurance, look it up, Google it. Titles insurance is important. But there is a lot of homes like this. Specifically, there's one, I think it was in I can't remember if it was St. Catharines in Niagara Falls years ago. These people bought this house. There was a big driveway. They moved in, everything was all good. And I think the previous owner, had the driveway there, but the driveway was on not their property. So it was, it was on a laneway. And so what happened is all of a sudden, whoever owned the laneway said, hey, listen, you're going to have to get rid of that driveway. This is my driveway. He goes, what? What are you talking about? He bought the house. He bought that house based knowing that that driveway was part of that house. So anyway, Titles Insurance got involved. They were able to buy the piece of land that the driveway was on from the people that owned the laneway. So
which is what this guy in Hamilton wanted to do from the city, but the city said no.
Yeah, the city said no. And so who knows when that driveway was put in. Now, there is a lot of properties out there that have encroachments, a lot of properties out there that you may live in it and you don't know that you could be partially on city property. Who knows, right? Now, if there was ever any issues, Titles Insurance would take care of it. You go to them. I have my insurance. They would take care of it. They would try to make a deal. If you had to tear down the house or tear down the like this guy has this poolside oasis and rip out the driveway, they would pay for that and try to fix it as much as possible. So that's what Titles Insurance has. But you'd be amazed at how many people have this problem, and people have built over top of other properties and nothing is said. But guaranteed, this guy, somebody complained to him. Somebody complained to the city about this guy building.
I feel like during the pandemic, that was probably a very common thing. Like people were building and they had so much time, they were just building around the house. So that probably could actually be an issue for a lot of homes out there, not knowing.
Yeah. So they had a professional landscape company, that like a high-end landscape company probably to do this. So they probably made him sign something saying, hey, like we'll build it, but we're not responsible. We're building over top of an encroachment of city property. And because you don't hear their name being involved in any of this. So obviously the homeowner said he probably had guts and, a lot of guts to say, yeah, go ahead. Nobody's going to say anything. Well, guess what? Now he's going to have to rip down this $400,000 thing that he put together between the pool house and the driveway and whatever else. So
that's $400,000 to do it, and now he's got to pay for it to take it down as well.
Yeah,
right.
It's probably going to cost him.
Costly.
Yeah, it's going to cost him probably $100,000 to rip it out and fix up the land that was on the property, and he has to be 4 feet in from the property line, so he's over the property line. Like he's gone into the city property line. So he has to be 4 feet in. Now, a lot of people, like for instance, a lot of people buy houses with finished basements. Now, a lot of us know, like my parents, my dad finished the basement in our house when probably, I think he did it in the 60s or 70s. I don't think a permit was done. And there's a lot of people out there with finished basements with no permits. And the reason why people don't get permits, because people are afraid that their taxes are going to go up. Now, I think if they did have permits without affecting your taxes, I think you get more people applying for the permit. You know what I mean? And then to make sure you got the right electrician and right plumbers doing the job. But a lot of people have bought houses out there without permits done on it could be a secondary building, like a big storage shed in the back. A lot of people have finished basements. Who knows what else has been done? But I'd say 75% or more, the people that own a house and they bought a house with a finished basement, chances are there was no permit done on that. And so
will your house inspector pick up on these things for you when looking at a house?
Yes. So they'll look at the electrical box to make sure everything's all good. They'll look at, they can't really see behind the walls, right? But they'll check the electrical, they'll check each plug to make sure it's grounded and everything's all good. And usually anything electrical, most people always hire the right electrician. And hopefully they know what they're doing if they're doing it themselves. But like I said, there's a lot of properties out there that people are buying, and it's good to have a home inspection done. And if you walk into a house, especially a house that was built in the last 10 years, and it has a finished basement, that's a good question to ask. Was there a permit applied for this? And you can, this is all on title. This is all on title. You can just bring it up, and it shows if there was a permit made for finishing the basement, or unless it was finished with the builder. The builder finished it while he was building the house. And that's all included with that. But again, there's a lot of houses like that have finished basement. Like the house I have, I live in, and it had a finished basement. It was probably done in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. Who knows? The house was built in the mid 50s, late 50s, and I don't know if that house had a permit to finish the basement. I mean, I redid the basement, the exact same walls. I took the paneling out, put drywall and everything else, so it looked like it was done right, but I don't know if there was a permit done for that. So, and again, it's home inspection is very important. Look up to see if there was a permit done on if it was a back deck or anything on the property to make sure that everything was done above board.
So when we're talking about like a back deck or the driveway or the pool house oasis, what are the steps that the homeowner needs to take then?
Well, it'll show on title if there was a permit drawn for that. It'll show. And if the homeowner did it himself without a permit, it's a good idea to find out who did the work and investigate it. If he's not going to buy the house because there was no permit done, but the work looks like it was done professionally, talk to the contractor, see if they're a legitimate contractor that did the work. Do your research that way. But it's hard to really find out because people are trying to save money without having having their taxes go up. Most people get electrical permit, but that has nothing to do with the municipality or the city. And but again, all this information is online. So I can bring up a report on your house, and it gives me the history of your house, and it tells me if there was any additions, tells me any renovations or any permits taken out. Like when you put a pool in, it'll tell you the year that you put the pool in and the permit that you got. It has everything. Now, if you have a house with a pool and the pool is 10 years old and there's no indication that there was a pool permit put in, then you know what, you want to do some investigation on that. And that report, I think for a realtor, I think it only costs about $35 to do. And I do that report when somebody calls me and to evaluate their home, and so I can see what the square footage is, if there's been any additions put on, everything. It tells me everything about the property. And sometimes we find out more about the property than the actual homeowner that lives in there currently because they only live there in a short term, but the previous owner or one or two previous owners did all the work, and they at least they can see that, and then we can show that when somebody's buying a house.
And $35 for peace of mind is pennies.
It is. And it gives you everything that you need to know about every house in Niagara, Hamilton, any house in Ontario. We have access. I have access to information on any house in Ontario.
Well, it's funny because if you've been living in a house for a really long time, and maybe the house when you bought it was, 30 years old and you've lived there now for, 20, 30 years, you're kind of done with the, older style house, and you now have built up, a bit of money in your bank, and, you're into the next stage of your life where you're thinking more of the luxury real estate market. That's it's a luxury to be in that market as well. But it's one that's holding up really, really strong, which in my opinion is a little surprising, especially with the market that we're in right now. So coming up, we're going to talk about, despite this, cooler spring market for real estate, how the luxury real estate market is doing pretty strong in all of Canada, especially here locally as well. And I know that you probably have some insight on that as well. So we're going to talk about that coming up. Rob Golfi is with us for more of the Golfi Real Estate Show. And of course, you can always get all of the information that you need. If you want to know what your house is worth right now, just log online to robgolfi, GOLFI.com. They can call you directly to Rob, right, at 641-0308. And if you want to learn more about the Canadian luxury real estate market, you got to tune in. We'll be right back on News Talk 610 CKTB.
I know the importance of hiring the best agents.
I'll take a photo of your house and post it on the World Wide Web.
Next,
our multi-million-dollar marketing system reaches tens of thousands of potential home buyers every day.
Go to robgolfi.com and put the best team to work for you.
We're talking all things real estate with Rob Golfi on the Golfi Real Estate Show right here on News Talk 610 CKTB. My name is Aiko, filling in for Steph Vivier. She'll be back with you next week. But for all of your real estate questions, inquiries, and needs, you can always call Rob Golfi and his team at 905-641-0308 or go online to robgolfi.com. But like every week, we tune in to the Golfi Real Estate Show and get all the details right from Rob Golfi himself. Rob, how is the luxury real estate market? Because, we've been coming out of a really kind of cold, slow spring market. You were saying maybe that the summer market will turn into what we normally see as a spring market. Let us know what's happening with the luxury real estate side.
Yeah. Despite the spring slowdown, Canada's the market, the luxury homes and cabins are faring better than lower tiered homes. Like it's amazing what's happening out there now. Luxury buyers are less sensitive to interest rates, because they're either putting a lot of money down or paying cash for their properties, and they're focusing instead on wealth strategy and long term investments. Now, in Toronto, had 5 sales over $10 million. That's quite a bit. That's $10 million. And in Montreal remained stable with 8 sales over $4 million. And in Vancouver saw a 48% drop in sales over $4 million. So 33 homes sold over $4 million. So sales overall were down nearly 10% year over year, and inventory rose 14.3%. So why is this luxury market? You know what it is? Sometimes I think the mindset of people are changing. People are sitting on a lot of money out there right now, and they're going, what am I going to do? I worked so hard all my life. I might as well buy something that I'm going to love and move into. Like they always wanted, maybe a large property, an estate lot with with a pool and everything else like that. So we're getting those people that are buying these houses, and they have the money to do it. There is a lot of money, especially in Niagara. You'd be surprised. Niagarans, I'll tell you, there's a lot of money, but they have a tendency of hanging on to it and living modestly in their regular home and not really going after the big luxury homes that Torontonians do or anywhere else, or Burlington people do. But yeah, that market is still pretty stable and moving pretty good, especially with the way the market is going right now.
Some of these families too have been in these homes for 40, 50 years. And when they bought 40, 50 years ago, the house was, very, very affordable and has gone up in such great value. They're able to just cash in and then go into that luxury market so much easier than, of course, let's say the first time buyers wanting to have that, luxury house with all of the upgrades and such, right?
Oh, absolutely. These people that they bought 40, 50 years ago, some people bought luxury, like even waterfront properties 50 years ago, and waterfront properties weren't as in big demand back then, and now today everybody wants waterfront, and so people, they just made millions of dollars just being on the water, depending how big their property is and everything else like that. Especially in Burlington, people are tearing down $1 to $2 million homes to build a $5 to $10 million home on there. Like, what kind of money do you have to make to build, to own and live in one of these, $10, $20 million houses? You got to be an executive for like Loblaws or whatever. But they're selling, and people have money out there, and some of them are saying, oh, okay, it's time for me to, splurge. And buying real estate, to me, I'll tell you, buying luxury real estate is not as a good investment as buying properties that are $600,000-$700,000. So let's say you buy a $6 million house, right? That property may go up in value, but those properties need a lot of money to maintain. You got to feed it.
The upkeep, sure,
upkeep
yes.
and everything, the cost, everything. And then to change, let's say you have to update it, to change a kitchen can cost you $250,000. So now if you buy 10 $600,000 properties, which equals out to $10 million, right? No, sorry, $6 million. And you buy $6 million, those 10 $600,000 properties will go up in value greater combined than the one $6 million property that you buy as a luxury. So investment wise, it is a luxury to have a luxury home because you're not going to do as well on return on investment on those big, larger homes. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but you will go farther, greater financially with 10 $600,000 homes than you would on one $6 million luxury property.
What would be your opinion in this buyer's market per se, when it comes to people who maybe are looking at investment properties? Is this a good time to get in on that then, if it is a buyer's market and maybe they do have that money to spend?
Absolutely. And if you're looking at buying an investment property, try to buy something with 2 to 6 unit buildings, like a duplex, triplex, fourplex, or sixplex. Buy those because the financing to get on those is just the same as it is on a single family home. And it's harder to make a return on investment on a single family home because they are expensive. So now it's good to buy an investment. Get somebody to manage it for you. We like ourselves. We have a property management company. Give us a call. And we take care of everything. We get the right tenants in there. Tenants have a tendency of going and looking at homes that personal homeowners are trying to rent out themselves because they're not as trained and they don't read as well finding out bad tenants. We do. We had one tenant in one of our that wanted the house badly, but they were on it's called open room. It means that there was a judgment against them in the landlord tenant board. We said, sorry, we're not going to give this property to you because you obviously gave somebody a hard time in paying rent or doing something on the last property that you were in. So so now they're turning. So these tenants that are causing problems and they have a judgment against them and they're being evicted. Guess what? They're going to have a hard time finding a place to live. But they will pry on people that are trying to tenant properties that are privately, not through property managements or real estate. So, but investment-wise, you can really get some good deals out there. This is the time. This is the time to do it because the market will go up, and it has gone up. And if you look at a 60-year cycle or even 70-year cycle since the 1950 to this day today, housing prices doubled every 10 years. The only decade housing prices did not double was the 90s. But otherwise, if you go back from the 1950s till today, housing prices doubled. And in the last 10 years, housing prices doubled less than 10 years. And so the investment is good. Have somebody manage it for you, and then you don't have the headaches. And you own brick and mortar, which is really good for your investment portfolio.
When it comes to people who have been sitting on, let's say, a cottage property for a really long time, is this a good time for them to be cashing out right now? Like a lot of people have maybe generational cottages, maybe that they won't be passing down, or maybe they will be passing down. What's been happening with that?
Yeah, a lot of that it has been passing down right now, the cottage properties, but the thing is, there's a lot of them out there. So like there was a 71-year-old lady preparing to sell her Muskoka cottage, and her parents built in 1973, but because she's can't upkeep the house anymore. So like many retirees, she's encountering challenges in the recreational property real estate market, hoping to get between 800 and 850, but she probably will end up getting 750. Now, there's a bunch of properties. A lot of people are selling now, retirees, and a lot of people that bought properties during COVID because they needed a place to go. So you're getting a lot of those people unloading. Now, so a lot of people that bought during COVID never owned cottages before. They're not cottage people. They just, you know what I mean? Like everybody was buying things. RV people aren't RV people. Cottage people aren't cottage people. So for them to own a cottage and probably not use it that much, so that they're unloading. But they paid a lot of money for it. So some of them are waiting to see if the market catches up. Some of them may break even. A lot of them are losing money. But it's happening. But there is going to be an influx of people buying cottages. It depends on what's going on with the U.S. A lot of Canadians are selling their winter properties in Florida, and now that's driven the market down over there. So they don't want to lose money there, but it's just the whole world's gone crazy right now. But the cottages. Timing is good now. If you got a beautiful property on the lake, it's pristine, you will get money for it. It's basically taking care of your properties. If you own a property now, no matter whether it's a cottage or whatever, take care of it. You will always do well on the sale price of it.
I feel like when the pandemic was happening and everybody was buying up these cottages, the remote workplace was very popular. Now, the idea of getting back to the office is starting to become a thing. So maybe people are, not spending as much time up at their secondary home or their cottages anymore and moving back into the city life. Do you think that these people are going to have a problem now buying back into the market?
Yeah, they will. A lot of people did work remotely. I know young people. They moved all over the country. They say, "Hey, we're going to move to Vancouver and see how that is," because they were able to work remotely. They didn't have to be in the office, and they moved out there. So this is the first time that Canadians, especially people in Ontario, are moving away from where they live. First time they're moving away from where their family is. Like usually Americans do that. But Canadians, I mean, we're kind of like mostly people, like if you were born in Ontario, right? Let's say in Southern Ontario, chances are you're going to get a job within an hour to maybe 2 hours max away from where you were born and raised, right? But now people are moving province to province. People are moving to East Coast, West Coast. They're moving to Calgary. Everybody's moving all over the place because of housing and everything else like that. But yeah, it is getting tougher for people that are looking, because companies are saying, "Hey, I want you back at the office. We're not doing this anymore." So people have to sell and find a place that is within an hour drive. Now they can't afford to go back, like especially in Toronto. People sold their place in Toronto, went to Niagara or Waterloo or Barrie, Ontario, and they were priced less. But now when they sell those houses, going back in the Toronto market, that market is expensive for them, and they may not qualify. And a lot of people right now are struggling because of the interest rates that they locked in for 5 years, or they're renewing their mortgage, and it's a lot higher because a lot of us had mortgages at 1.5% to 2%. That's peanuts, and compared to them now, they have to get 4 or 5% now that's happening.
It's a big difference. And not to end on a bad note or anything, but there's this one story out of BC when it comes to, renting out your property. Sometimes you don't have the most ideal renters and you are left with a big mess to clean up.
I remember my first property on Ross Avenue in Niagara Falls. I ended up with a lot of garbage. It was my first property. I was 20 years old. I go to I go, "What the heck is this about?" And I just took it. I didn't even say anything. I had to clean it up. But there was these property sellers. They have to pay $5,175 to the buyers that bought their property because they knew the buyers were buying their property were going to tear it down. But still, there were hoarders that were living in there before. And what they did was they didn't even clean it up. They say, "Oh, you guys are going to tear it down." It doesn't matter. You still have to clean it. The judge ruled that they'd have to pay for the cleanup. And the sellers that sold that property said, "Well, why do we have to clean up? They're going to tear it down eventually anyway." And it doesn't matter. When you purchase a property, it should be cleaned out. And it should be, in a broom swept manner. No matter what the condition the house is in, you don't want to walk into 2 feet of garbage everywhere around through the house. Anyway, so they were awarded that. So when you buy a house, that's why it's always good to walk through the day before or the morning of the house when you take possession, so you know exactly what you're getting on the day you take possession, and when the lawyer hands the money to the sellers. So always do the walkthrough prior, just before closing, and so you can see what you're getting, especially not a week before. I mean, try to do it the night before, the day before, or the morning of the closing date.
You can always look for things like maybe something was hidden with a rug, or something was hidden with a big painting on the wall. And when they take it all down, then you kind of see why.
People change appliances. Take pictures of the appliances. I mean, we have photography throughout the house. Oh yeah, I've been through it all. People take light fixtures out, and there's all sorts of things that you got to watch out for. But if anybody's going to do anything wrong, you're going to see it the morning or the night before closing when you take possession. So it's always do the walkthrough. Make sure it's the same appliances. I had somebody switch out all the appliances, and we went after them, say, hey. And we want the appliances back. Otherwise, we're going to sue you, and we're going to buy new appliances. So, people do all sorts of things. So that's why the walkthrough prior to you moving in, like within 24 hours of you taking possession, always do a walkthrough.
All right. Well, before we say goodbye, with the cooling of the spring market, we're hoping that heats up with the summer market. Let's end on a positive note. With what you're seeing in the market right now, and with your expertise and your years of being in real estate, Rob Golfi, let us know what are the things that we could be looking forward to.
I think the interest rates are going to be good. I think looking forward to the market will start picking back up. Everybody's going to be working. Everybody's going to be happier. We've pretty well are 75, 80% through a tougher times through the real estate market, but we're almost there where it's going to get better and everybody's going to be a lot happier. So it'll be more of a balanced market. Sellers will get what the value is and the buyers will get what the value is. But right now, yes, it's a little bit of an advantageous for the buyers.
And especially in this market, people have to understand, too, that they can't do it themselves. They really do need the expert help. Rob Golfi, you have been in the market and been working real estate for how many years now?
Over 25 years. So my experience, I've seen everything.
The number one team that you need to go to with all your questions. Maybe you're just thinking about selling at this point. Get all the information you need prior to selling, and then get Rob Golfi and his team to sell it at a price and a deadline that you both agree to. Give them a call, 905-641-0308. You can always find out what your house is worth right now as well. Go online to robgolfi.com. That's Rob, Golfi.com. Rob Golfi, it's always been a pleasure. Steph Vivier will be back with you next week. Always great advice. Thanks so much for joining us for the Rob Golfi Real Estate Show.